Hey everybody, today we're going to go over how PvP gearing works. I will include my quest log link at the end of this, so if you want to take a look at it, make a clone of it, and make modifications. But this is going to be a little bit of a longer video because I want to go over how the gearing actually works, step by step. I feel like there's so many moving pieces, it can be pretty confusing, and a lot of people get kind of lost in just picking different builds. They try one out that they see somebody else use, and maybe they're not having success with it. So then they move to another one. Now they're having to change gear. You're having to change all kinds of stuff. It could be a real big headache, and I think pretty much a deterrent from this game. This is very much a min-max type of game. People are not targeting you, coming after you. You'll hear me mention that several times because of anything personally, sometimes possibly personally, but mostly because you are the armor type and mitigation type that they want to target. So let's talk a little bit about the three armor types that are in the game. So you've got plate. Plate has range of melee mitigation, weak against magic. Leather, range of magic mitigation, weak against melee. Cloth, magic and melee mitigation, weak against ranged. So you can see by identifying different people and what they're wearing, what they're doing, either by their weapons and what you think they're wearing, or by actually seeing their armor type, you know who to go after and what type to attack. I typically use their weapon selection to know what bonuses they're going to get off of their gear to pick my target. But this is where you should start. So if you're looking at what you want to build and how you want to fight, or what you want to fight against, this is going to be the very beginning. Now for me, I selected staff and wand is going to be my weapon. So I've got a couple different options because I'm going to look at the bonuses that are on the armor. Each armor set, except for the ones that don't have sets, they each have a 4-piece or up to a 4-piece that you can use. So for example, the one on the far right is your swirling essence. And that one right there is going to be really specifically good for stuff that is going to be doing curses, right? Or weakness. Or weakness duration is up by 7.5. The 4-piece for it would be range by 10%. So that could be really huge if you're trying to curse/weaken a large amount of people. You can spread that a lot. For how I plan to play, that's great. Maybe you want to play a caster that uses plate, or you want to be a tank. Well, damage reduction on a shock commander set plus shield block chance, that really synergizes really well with it. And that's what we were talking about before. Now, you need to take your armor and weapon synergy and make the most out of it. Get it as in the best spot as possible. So obviously, if you have, let's say, for example, you are going to run a dagger set. Well, then a dagger set, you're not going to really worry about shield block, right? So in this case, we can take a look at these right here. Now, for myself, I'm looking at staff and wand. So I'm not really worried about attack speed. I mean, it is beneficial. Critical damage is really good for me. So I could base around a Shadow Harvester set and worry about my critical damage and push that. But I know that within my weakness, or getting weaknesses out, I'm going to have a lot of smaller hits. And I need a lot of them really fast. And I need them to stay up as long as possible. Swirling Essence wins for me. That's the direction that I'm going to go with for my build. Now, you have 5 armor slots. I'm not including the cloak. I don't really consider the cloak an armor slot. I consider it a cloak, right? I carry multiple different cloaks with me. You have 5 armor slots, 4-piece or 2 pieces. So let's say, for example, you like a 2-piece on each 2 different sets. You can go that route. And your 5th armor slot is really, that along with your accessories and your cloak, is really to balance as much as possible, to balance in different types of damages, etc., whatever you're trying to add or make yours really good at. So there's a couple tools that are out there. You could pick builds, you can break it down on your own, but the one that I prefer and use the most is Questlog GG. And I really want to go over this tool because I feel like there's a lot of confusion on how to use it other than just pulling builds off of it. So we're going to take a minute and go over Questlog and what I think is the best process for it. So Questlog is where we really get a chance to start min-maxing as much as possible. Start building up for what we're fighting, how we're fighting, and what we're defending against. You may say, wow, this one guy, he attacks me all the time. He's constantly after me. I keep seeing his name pop up on the kill list. You're not a specific target for anything personal. You're a target because you are what they're supposed to target. Understanding that is half of PvP. So to start off, I'm going to just throw in whichever wand, whichever staff, so then I can go ahead and start focusing on my skills. Now I've got my skill set here, but what I want to do is I want to go over my thought process behind it, because with everything changing, with tier 2 about to come out, with some of the bonuses coming out, there will be ultimately some adjustments that need to happen. And you're going to find that skills, what people are playing, they're going to keep it close to them until they've kind of really, figured out what they want to do, or they figure out it's super competitive, or they don't want to put something out that doesn't really work well, or if they question it themselves, or some people just don't want you to know their build. So I'm going to go ahead and clear these out, and we're going to go through the process. But keep in mind, you should focus very much on your specific build. You should not have evasion and endurance. You should not have too many multiplicatives in there. You should really be focused as much as you can on exploiting a couple of really powerful things that will push somebody over the edge and actually close the deal out to where you're actually able to kill them in PvP. So let's get started on my build process. I always start with my passives. Passives are the number one route to how you're going to play your character. The actives is how you close the deal out. Your passives are the type of play style that you'll use. So starting up with my staff skills, I'm going to really look at some of my big damage. I know that I want to focus on fire weakness and the dot that comes along with that. So Mana Ball Eruption, really good. It's going to give me a chance to keep getting that fire damage out. Plus, it's just a free fireball every now and then. Why would I pass that up? Now, you can increase the amount and the times this happens by having your mana regen up higher, but I'm not going to really worry about that because I'm not going to specialize on just the fireball itself. I'm going to have that as an additional damage, but nothing I'm going to focus too much on. It is important to really read through the passives. I do see here that some of them aren't coming up over the top. Next is asceticism. This is remaining stationary, massive forest. It's going to give us really, the big thing is mana regen, which is going to still help out with our fireball. And then it's also going to give us, most importantly, ranged heavy attack chance by 100. Have to have that in there. So getting stationary for 3 seconds is really important. Mana amp, if you're getting crushed a lot, this is a really good way to boost up your max health and your max mana. But more importantly, your max health by 1200. I'm healing. I'm moving a considerable amount. I don't really want to spend the points in there. I'm not feeling too squishy right now. Flame condensation, 72% additional damage to flame damage over time, 100%. That's the build I'm going for. The barrier, got to have that, mostly for sleep, silence, but where it can be an issue is bind. We'll talk about that in just a little bit, but really important just to have another way to be able to move. If somebody can get a hold of you, it can get really bad really quickly, especially if it's range and you can't get out of range of that damage. Next is going to be a pretty simple one for us. And there I'm going over the Icebound Tome that it could break you out of on accident. Forbidden Sanctuary, we're not really super worried about our mana regen. It's looking really good. So we're going to be able to hold on to mana, but we're going to get a massive amount of additional damage added into there with all of our dots. I do apologize. Now after looking at this, some of it is getting cut off there, but I'm going with Vampiric Contract. I'll just explain why. We definitely want to use the curse and be able, or use curses and get health from that. Another option is going to Full of Corruption, which is good if you're able to close out a lot of kills. If you're in a great scenario, if you're in a smaller battleground, GVG, I really like this because I can typically knock out some people that are jumping into a back line. And plain and simply, you don't have to kill them. They just have to die with your weaken effect on them. So people will die all around you, and that is going to boost up your damage by 120. So it's huge. So as the battle's rolling, you're getting stronger, you're getting more heals. Action's really picking up. Devotion and Emptiness. I like this a lot, but the one thing I don't like about it is either you're doing better in healing or you're doing better at your curse damage by 36%. This is fun if you're going out for world PvP, which is specifically catered around nighttime. Selfless Soul, Noble Revival, these are important things to have in your build. especially if you're going to run a couple, like if you're going to run beam, you definitely want to have Noble Revival. Saint's Oath is really powerful. So if you're taking damage, it's going to boost the amount that you can heal, how much you regen. So as soon as you get hit by skill damage, you're able to start your defensive without having to completely stop and focus on it. Wrath's Beacon, huge for us when it comes to curses, especially if you're running multiple curses like I am. I'm going to be running Explosion, everything. It's a mess. This may not be the build for you, but I'm going to take you through what it is. It's been massively successful for me so far, how fast I'm moving up the ranks and making enemies. So for my last one, I'm going to choose here. I think I'm going to go ahead and just go with Full of Corruption. And there we go. So now we know what our build style looks like. We want to get in. We want to get a bunch of people dotted up as fast as we possibly can so they die and we get our 3 stacks, and then we maintain that as we go. So now let's get over to our active skills. Once again, this is how I play it. I love Fireball. It is a blast. I love seeing massive 18K by, times 2 crits. It's amazing. It's fun. You can drop somebody instantaneously if you have the right target. It could be a blast, but I'm having more fun really getting as much of my fire dot out as I can. So first I'm going to go with my Chaotic Shield. Once again, as soon as I block, I'm putting curses out there. And then I am going to go with, let's see, when I target over it, there we go, Frost Smoke Screen. It's a weird spell. I'll explain in a minute. But it is a blast. If you play it right, and you have the support to be able to play it right, you can close a lot of people out on another team really quickly. I'm going to follow that up by being able to burst out my Blast Wave, which is going to give me a lot of damage. I can get that, easily to crit and do, 2Xs into, 15, 16K all the time. I'm going to get as many curses out as I possibly can. I want to curse as many people as I possibly can. And then I'm going to explode, use my Curse Explosion on that. Now, sometimes here, I have been toying around with the Ray. And Ray of Disaster can be a lot of fun. It's a super weird, difficult build. And you really have to gear around the amount of healing that you're able to do. Your skill heal specifically. So you need to buff that. You need to rune around it. It's a lot of stuff to be able to get 100%. So I'm not going to go over that build. I might go over that build in another one and kind of show off how much fun that can be. But for right now, I'm going to go with Karma K's because once again, I'm going to change Karma K's over to being able to extend the amount of time that the dots are on people just to be able to keep my buffs up as much as possible. Now I'm going to focus on my defenses and my buffs. So Icebound Tome, huge for us. That's an ice shield. You get a crossbow on you. You get in the beginning, maybe there are a couple flash waves you didn't get out of time for. Boom, you have a way to defend yourself. Then I'm going to get my buffs out there. I'm going to get my main heal. And then I'm going to get some defenses out. And then we're going to talk about how to turn this defense right here specifically into a huge buff for you as well. If you're real squishy, I would steer clear of it. If you have the capability, I would say let's go ahead and use it because it can bring a lot of burst damage for you. So now we've got our basic build, or the build that I'm using. And our next step is we are going to go ahead and start building them up with, well, first of all, we're going to go ahead and do our weapon mastery to see where we're at. So as you can see here, I typically look at what the major nodes are. You can time out where you want to go with the major nodes. You can use all 3 lines if it's better for you to get the first 3 major nodes. But I'm going to go down to cooldown speed and see that's what I really want. And then, of course, my next one that I would go through would be my magic damage dealt. But realistically, I'm going to go back to about where I'm at right now. I haven't got a chance to level all the way up to 20, so this is where I'm at right now. This boosts my burning damage up, which is huge for me. If you want to go for silence resist, etc., you need that. Go up to the top. It's not set in stone. Same thing for here. On my wand, heavy attack chance. As fast as I can get to that, that's where I'm going. And then, of course, skill damage boost would be great. But right now, this is about where I'm at. My wand's a little bit behind because I started off with a bow. Cooldown speed, you could build up to that. It's really play style. This is where it gets difficult, is trying to manage and just run out with somebody's build without understanding what you've designed and built yourself around doing. Mine is really about as much damage, as much dot. I'm really quick at healing. I'm really quick at defensive and moving. So this is what works out the best for me. So now that we've got our mastery on, let's look at our specialization. Frost Smoke Screen. This has become my new favorite thing in this entire game. Because you can turn it into fire, then you can turn it to an area that you put it on the ground, and you can buff it. You can cast it back to back. It is massively, massively huge at getting fire dots out. You can cast it, and then immediately after casting it, you're able to hit your Inferno Wave. So I go Frost Smoke Screen, Inferno Wave, Frost Smoke Screen, Inferno Wave. And while I'm doing that, at the very end, I'm going to hit my Corrupted Magic Circle. And this is almost the order I go into. I use Rotten Swamp. If you wanted to go a different way and you didn't want to build AoE Touch of Despair, you could very much go with Decaying Touch, an incredibly strong single target. But you would need to spread that through Karmic Haze. And you can buff it up to do even more damage that way. I find people aren't able to really see anything on the ground because they don't have what's targeting them on the ground. So I find that Rotten Swamp is great. It's a fast way to get a big curse out there. People run through it all the time. So now that I know that I'm not going to spread through Karmic Haze, I'm going to focus on AoE damage with my Touch of Despair. So I want to get additional people in there. So if I have people close to me, I'm shielding up and I'm casting that out. It's great. I'm going to extend the time on my dots through Unlucky Clock. I'm going to make my Curse Explosion just do more damage increased. I'm not going to focus target. Now, I could do Dark Explosion, and I typically only do Dark Explosion if I'm in a scenario where there is a lot of different areas. Maybe I'm running over here, I'm running over there. It's a siege, so battles happening all over the place, and a lot of damage is coming in. Well, I don't want to wash my dots away because now I'm washing my healing, I'm washing my buffs, I'm washing everything off. So if things are going to die in a relatively close area and we're having a fight in a smaller area, then I'm going Explosion. The burst from that it's huge. If I'm moving around a lot, then I'm going to go with Dark Explosion because I want to keep those dots on. I'm still getting some burst from my explosion, but at the same time, I'm not washing off my fire dots. I'm not washing off my curse dots. I'm leaving everything on them for as long as possible to keep trailing in nonstop small amounts of healing that add up really, really, really quickly. Now for defenses, we're going to go with Icebound Armor. This is great for saving yourself. Like I said before, flash waves coming at you. You get jumped by crossbow, spin and win. This is going to save your life so many times. Now, another option we can look at here, we're going to run Blessed Barrier because it's just too powerful for us to stay up and stay alive. But we can go with Fighting Spirit. And that's going to increase your max damage by 92 for 6 seconds. So it not only do I find that it is really powerful, but I find that it keeps me constantly keeping it as a buff. Sometimes I'll forget about it. I've got X, Y, and Z going on. And so I might actually forget about throwing up my Blessed Barrier. This keeps me also on top of doing that. We can go with Effect Duration on there as well. But first of all, let's make sure we can do our Swift Healing. Huge for us. We got to have Swift Healing. Time for Punishment, we want extra damage. High Focus, we want extra damage. And we can see we've got a couple extra points that we're able to do it. Now, first of all, Victorious Energy is one of the most important things you can get. That is your hit. That is going to boost your hit well beyond where it needs to go with where we're going to find ourselves with hit in our final build. So now we can see we've got 10 extra points. A couple places we know we definitely want to put those 10 extra points is going to be over on our Blessed Barrier. And then we got a few extra points still remaining. We've got 3 points. So we'll go ahead and we'll go either defensive or we can go offensive by keeping our Inferno Wave up more often. But we're going to go ahead and do Invincible Wall so we can protect our team a little bit better because we still want to be synergizing with our group and not just this solo, AoE machine that's out there. We are doing a lot of damage. We are knocking a lot of people out really quick. We're also healing a lot of people around us. We're topping up to help out our healers, and we're adding shields kind of constantly. So it synergizes so well. That's why I love this build so much, is it really kind of crosses multiple different areas that we affect and we help out. But now we have our build. we know what we're looking at. We want to play. Maybe you found this build from somebody else. Maybe you've gone through and you've selected each one of these individually and found out what type of play style. You've gone to the test dummies. You've shot at those a whole bunch of times and you figured out what it is or how you want to play. Or maybe it's just an idea. For me, this is all just an idea, how I like to play. I play Shadow Priest type characters, Warlocks, Dark Magic kind of stuff. It's the emo in me, I guess. I don't know, but it's what I like to do. It is the most fun for me. So now I can actually go through and take a look at what I know from the skills that I've looked at are important. Weaken chance, massively important for me. Cooldown speed, be able to keep casting, get more dots out, really important. I'm doing small damage, and actually skill boost is important regardless. But the more we have a skill boost, the better for us. We're not going to worry about stats right now. We don't have any endurance skills up yet, so that's not going to show up. Range is massive for us that get as many people there as possible. And those bonus damage would be a big one, but I don't think we're going to put that in there. Let me see if we actually do. Nope, looks like we're going to focus right now on these. And we should actually be looking at our increase in range opposed to just our total range. But weaken chance is really what our build is all about. That's what we really want to focus on. It's not something, and why we're focusing on it is it's not something a lot of people are going to break away and be able to add up a lot. They may have a skill or so that allows for weaken resistance, but it doesn't take a whole lot to stack well beyond what they're able to resist and stop. So it gives us an opportunity to not have to worry about going in and having resistance so high that we can't just hard cast fireballs at somebody, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The mitigation level for weaknesses is super low for most people. So now I'm going to pick my weapons. I'm going to really try to go over this pretty quick because we go over each one of them, but I'm going with Licarius's because I want that fall below 20% health, go stealth. That gives me a chance to panic, hit my frost, save myself. I've gone through a lot of staffs. I would love to get the air to staff to work. But I think it takes me way too quickly into overkill. You can overkill a stat. The diminishing returns for those stats can take you to a point to where you completely overkill it. So I'm going to go for overall stats, perception and strength and cooldown. So that is why the Staff of the Umbrisser is where I'm going. If you're having trouble picking those out, remember, you can use the gear viewer. And let's say you want to select a specific one. Let's say it's armor and you're looking for chest piece. And maybe you're thinking, wow, I really need to focus on weakened chance, if I can spell it. There we go. And I can go through here and look at them. I can even sort by different stats, by different amounts. So using the gear viewer in this tool is super powerful as well when you're first starting to pick things out. Now, luckily, I've already gone through this quite a bit, and I know what I want the build to look like. And I've just recently changed it as well. So, for example, we have a non-set piece here, which would be the Visage, but I'm going to go ahead and go with the Swirling. The reason why is I need that weakened duration by 7.5, and I need that range by 10%. Those are huge for us to be able to keep our dots up going as long as possible. So now we know what our helm is going to be. We know what our set's going to be. We know we're going for the 4-piece. I'm going to go with Swirling Essence. I already know because I've gone through the build several times and all the different chests that I wanted to pick out. I know Swirling Essence gloves is where I want to go for the range. And I know that the pants are where I want to go as well. So now I've got my cloak slot and I have my 5th slot for armor. So I could go with the Swirling Essence, but Perception 4, that's pretty good. Crit chance, no. Stamina, no. I am standing still more often than anything else. It doesn't really matter. So I've actually picked out that what I want is I want additional hit chance and I want additional weaken chance. I want to push that weaken chance up to about 1,000 so that I don't have to worry about spreading it. I don't have to worry about blocks, etc. I'm able to move it pretty well. So that's what I'm going to go with. Now we go over to the cloak. There's tons of good options on cloaks. I carry multiple cloaks with me all the time. And the reason why is some are great for PvE, some are great for different PvP scenarios, but I'm going to go through the one that I really, really like the most. Now, right away, my PvE cloak, just so if you're curious, is we're going to scroll down there, Supreme Devotion. And the reason why is most of my PvE gear, which is most of what I have equipped now, is going to have cooldown speed and mana regen. because this build will burn a ton of mana. For weakened chance, you do have range and weakened chance on Relentless Assault, which could be really good because that's 7.5 range on there. And that's quite a bit. A pretty good blanket one that I keep as well, that I'm building up for this character now, is just Forsaken Embrace. A blanket 755 health, damage reduction of 16. That's pretty huge. That makes you really tanky, but I'm already pretty tanky. So I'm going to really blow up my most important stat. And that most important stat for me is going to be my weakened chance. And there is a great cloak for that. And that is going to be the Bile Drenched Veil. I think I get there in just a minute, but it is really strong for what we're trying to do. Weakened chance 181 right out of the gates and a cooldown speed of 3.5. We're going to keep casting, keep us moving. Our range is looking good. Now our weakened chance is starting to get there. Now we're at 734 on our weakened chance. So for a dot class, we're looking really good. As you can see, I'm going to pull this other range out here because I think it's just confusing. We just want to see what we're bumping our total range up to. So we'll go ahead and we'll pull this out so then it's not confusing. So we can see your magic hits, blah. Skill damage boost, blah. Cooldown speed is looking good. Weakened chance is looking good. Now we get into accessories. Real quick, real simple. There's a bunch of different ones that you can go with. A bunch of different ways that you can change it up. This is where you spend your time playing the game of gear Tetris, where you're slowly trying to figure out how to get which stats as much as possible. But Class of the Conqueror, perception and strength on one piece, I'm going to go for that every time. Primal King, there's a few options that you can go with here. There's some weakness and hit options that are out there as well. But perception and bonus damage on the amount of things that we're going to have going off all the time is huge for us. So that's going to be my selection every time until something new comes out that changes my mind. Now, where it gets a little controversial is, yes, we talk about stats and attributes a lot. And Banner Universal Power is super strong, but that's not the route I'm going. Eldritch Ice Band, it is Dex. We don't really need, but 114 on that weakened chance. But also, you also have a trait, and we'll go over that in a bit, that's going to make that 214. Now I want the range and perception and wisdom off of the Sapphire Dimensional Band. Now keep in mind, it looks like I'm just flying through. I'm like, oh, that's the right one. Oh, that's the right one. But in reality, I have put pieces of gear all over the place, right? There's a bunch of belts. I've gone through all the belts. I know Belted Bloodlust is the one to go with. Strength, max health. Don't care about the movement speed that much. So I know what this build specifically looks like as I'm building it up. So you will have to go back and forth. And as you make changes in the future, you will also do the same thing. Because now that we've gotten here, we're going to move over to attributes. Now in attributes, there's a couple different ways to do this, and I'm going to show you how I balance it. So first thing I'm going to do before I go in and mess with my attributes is I'm going to first of all just build all of my stats out, or my traits out. Weapons should always be the same thing. Crit, hit, heavy chance, every time. Now as we go through the rest of them, some of them are going to be your choice, right? Maybe you want to go with cooldown speed. Maybe max health is more important for you. I'm going to really focus on cooldown speed where I can, when I can. Debuff duration, a lot of this is going to go just kind of a lot of preference. Some of it is necessity, right? On armor, you're going to have to really focus on your mitigation. Do not bypass mitigation ever. Think min max every time. How do I get as much mitigation as I possibly can? Since we have a spill that is allowing us to take less chance of bind, we're going to go with bind resistance as well in that one case, or that one scenario like I just did, because we want to be able to run and get away from ranged attacks that are coming from us and not get bolted down. But every chance that we get, we need to focus on our endurance. We have to focus on our endurance as much as possible. Leaving a gap there, that's where you're going to take a lot of damage really quickly. Keep pushing that at every opportunity. There's no real math to it. If the piece is capable of running endurance and endurance is your mitigation style and you're playing PvP, use every opportunity you can, but balance it. So if you maybe have some pieces or runes that only allow you to have one or the other, make sure that you're balancing it in a way that you're kind of keeping them even. You'll see that as we kind of go towards the end here. So as we're going through here and putting together the remainder of our traits, we're going to start thinking about our attributes. What attributes benefit us the most? This is the time frame that I say that we stop and see where we're at. This is where you will make your gear changes. This is where you're going to maybe swap in and out different accessories, because the bonuses that you get from your attributes are really important to you as well. So we want to make sure that we are 100% finding a way to meet the different thresholds for different bonuses from our attributes. So we'll just finish up here. Buff duration, skill damage boost, really big for us. Max health. I pretty much max health everything else out here. I don't want to take everybody through clicking all the traits. This is pretty boring, but it gives you an idea of what I'm going through. Now, with that being said, though, this is really important and why we chose the Eldritch Ice Band. Weaken chance is built into the ring, plus 100 weaken chance is a trait on the ring. So that's massive. That's 214 from 1. We have now hit our weaken chance. We are at our threshold where we will begin to see diminishing returns more than benefit from growing weaken chance. We have now hit it. We do not need to focus anymore on weaken chance. And you will need to go through and do stuff like Combat PvP Simulator. You'll need to go and use some different tools, get advice, ask other people, and also just your experience where that threshold should be. But I know that through my experience, anything over this point is not really going to benefit us that much. So I'm not going to focus any more into weaken chance. We've accomplished one goal, which is get our weakest chance where we want. I'm going to put 1 on silence resist or debuff, depending on how the game's going for you, because we do get that from one of our skills. So now we're ready to move over to the attributes. We're looking at our baselines. Number 1, strength. Hugely important because we want heavy attack chance. 100 heavy attack chance to us is massive, especially with the amount of dots we have going out. Double the damage of the dot is huge for us. So we're at 238 right now. We've got some work to go. So we're going to start adding attributes into strength. But now we notice that we just saw a 0.5. It's gone orange. We're now paying 2 attribute points per 1 attribute in strength. So we stop. We're going to do the same thing for perception because we want that hit chance and that range. We've gone over. We stop. And then wisdom is the next one that we want because we want that cooldown speed. But now we're capped out. We're not able to put anything else in there. We've got our magic hit chance looking okay. It needs a little bit of work. Our heavy attack chance needs some work. We need to get to that, but this is where we're at. We've pretty much plateaued at the 47 there. So we know that we haven't hit any of our goals. So you might be looking at this going, oh, well, what do? We were missing goals. Well, nope, we're going to go into our runes. This is where we really start to be able to manage those stats, and specifically why I wanted us to wait to this point to bring our attributes up, because now we can start bandaging those spots. First thing, we go into the weapon, strength, critical hit damage reduction. That flows so perfectly with our endurance build. It's perfect. We could go shield block penetration chance if we really wanted to go after tanks, but we're not going to worry about that right now. Everywhere you can, magic heavy attack chance. They're not easy to come by. You'll come by a lot more heavy attack chances. But if you get it, that's the way to go. Next one is I'm going to swap back and forth between endurance on melee and endurance on magic. And then, of course, skill damage resistance and or skill heal. That's what you want to focus on. So now we're going to just continue going through there. We see that we have added our 3 points to get to 47 on strength. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to build this up. Real simple, magic heavy chance, range endurance this time, skill damage resistance, 50. We've hit our 50 goal for strength now. So now as we go through, we can see that we've got our hit now. Our heavy attack chance, is at 398. We're moving it up. Skill damage boost is looking good at 280. And we've also got our heavy attack chance looking a lot better, especially with the amount of damages or individual damage occurrences that are going to be going out. So now let's get into the next piece here. We need to work on our wisdom and we need to work on our perception. So we take a look at where we're at there. Which one are we going to go for first? And I will typically go for perception first because hitting is going to be so important, right? And with our buff that we're able to give ourselves, if we can get to 800 to 900 on our hit, we're going to be perfect. We're going to be able to be super competitive. Now, if we were doing something like a 1v1 build, we might be more aggressive with our hit chances. Here, I'm just showing that magic hit chance is hard to come by for me, at least. Hit chance, I see a lot more often. I've got one magic hit chance. The rest of them are all just regular hit chances, but I'm going to go ahead and pop in the magic hit chance. So we're looking at the best possibility and what you should be looking for. Skill hill, we're going to leave there for buffs and abilities on other skills. Plus, it's just really important for us, right? The more we're able to maximize the use of that mana, not just through its own efficiency, but through how we use it, is huge for us. So we're going to go ahead and throw on our melee endurance as we're going back and forth on these. Now we're going to take a look at where we're at. And we're at 58 on perception, 49 on wisdom. We're getting there. So next piece is going to offer us, let's see, nothing but actual boost. So no actual stat or attributes are added onto this. We're going to go with bonus damage. We're doing a lot of dots. So on this piece, we are going on our wrist with the bonus damage. You could go max health. I'm not worried about attack speed because we're just not stacking for it. We're going to go all in on what we're going all in on. We planned it. We practiced it. We know what's going to work. Magic heavy attack chance. They took a while to get, but promise me you'll go get them, but I promise you will want them. So on our rings, I'm just looking at some of the attributes here. I'm going to add the melee and magic endurance so you can actually see them up there. So we're going to make sure that we're keeping them even. And you see they're pretty dead even right now. And we're looking good. We want to get as close to that 1,000 mark as we possibly can. So going back into, obviously we're not focused on killing tanks right now. So perception and cooldown speed's massive for us. We'll just change these up to match the different stats that we need to go ahead and kind of patch up what's needed. And this is another reason why PvE is so important. I can tell you increasing my runes levels is a massive change to PvP for me. It is huge in the ability to be able to bring additional damage, to mitigate different damages, have different bursts. But now we can see we got our perception at 60. So we got our additional 120. Our hit chance is 895. It's looking great. On this piece, we don't have wisdom, but we're going to go with perception for the cooldown speed to match the other one. Go ahead and match this up. You would think for somebody that's done it 100 times that I would be faster at it, but I'm sorry. So there we go. Perception's over. We drop that down. We add our 1 wisdom in there. Now we've got 1 point floating around. Let's see what we get out of the belt before we mess with it. So no attributes. It's just going to be damage reduction, but this one's perfect. Flat 6 damage reduction with critical hit damage reduction for evasion or for endurance build is great. Or you could decide to go for the max health, whichever one you want to go with. I'm going to go with the crit mitigation because I think it just really makes endurance that much more powerful. It just really brings down any of the crits that make it through, makes it even more beneficial for us overall. And there we go. We've hit our goal. We have managed to get 50 strength. We've managed to get 50 wisdom. We've managed to get 60 perception. And typically, I just throw any little leftover points right into fortitude, gives you a little extra damage. Plus, with endurance base, it's just going to add up our endurance. We can see we're at 944 on both of our endurances, super strong. Magic heavy attack chance at 428. That's great for the amount that we're going to have out there as far as individual damaging occurrences. Our magic hit chance is 925. That's going to put us right at 1300 whenever we're buffed. Our skill damage boost is 280. That's decent. Weaken chance, that's where we really want to be at. And our weaken chance and our range and our cooldown speed of almost 50%. So this is going to allow us to really just roll dots across the whole field as fast as we possibly can. And it is a really powerful build. It's really a lot of fun. It does take a little bit of time to get used to, especially the reality that you are doing all targeted casting. So you're not really casting at individuals as much as you are targeting the ground around them, which could be a little bit difficult. But with this build, you can roll a lot of that out. Now, I wanted to have some examples of me actually PvPing with it, and I might hold off on releasing this until I get that. But with the server right now, it has been a little bit difficult to get into some of those bigger battles and show it off. But I will at least show it on the dummies so you can get an example of what it's capable of doing. So now let's talk a little bit about testing. Now, you should be testing quite often just to practice, how to synergize your skills together, what rotations look like, or what rotations you want to go with, and then playing around with different builds. A lot of builds can be pretty successful, especially depending on how you play or how the people you're playing against play. You can see in this scenario, I've got pretty much the build that we were looking at and talking about is my main AoE support group for large-scale PvP. Now, the difference between large-scale PvP and small-scale PvP is you shouldn't really be thinking about this as how much individual damage can I push out as far as, am I going to kill everybody around me? You want to dominate as a guild. You want to show off individually or in small groups, right? Arena is about showing off. And there's a whole skill set to arenas as well as 1v1 or small scale. But large-scale PvP, you want to know how you're assisting everybody else. The dots that I have on things, the amount that is pulling down, the slows, the et cetera that go onto there. For my bow team, that's great. It gives them that little bit of edge to knock them out and get rid of them completely. It's especially with all the other groups that are out there as well. I'm trying to weaken as many people around me and put dots on them. If I get all the kills for it, amazing. That'll be great. I love getting as many kills as possible. If I don't come out of anything PvP with double digits, I'm pretty sad about it. But I'm also more ecstatic about my guild winning rift stones, boon stones, siege captures, things like that are way more important. And that's where you've got to kind of come up with a build that is more suited towards making sure others around you are successful. I like this build because it allows me to dot everything up, weaken everything up. I'm causing massive amounts of damage and definitely enough for everybody else to close it out. But you can come in here and play around with pretty much anything in the build. Here I'm going to show off a little build that I like to just mess around with. It is fun in pretty much any scenario. I really like doing this. It just blows up a group, freaks them out pretty bad. Everything goes red. It pulls out your stealths, everything. I love it. But you can see it just massively just throws numbers out there. Now, is it enough to knock everybody down and kill them? No, this is just kind of bringing health down. It is a pretty good chunk, and it does have some burst in there, but you really need to time it out. But my point in this is not that this is the best build or that's the best build or that there really is a best build. There's probably a few builds out there that are more meta, maybe easier to grasp and play. But the reality is you can really min-max almost any different skill and ability in the game. That's what I actually like about the game the most. Is I used to love playing a lot of different MMOs. I'll use WoW as an example. But now the build process is such a cookie cutter process, you miss the ability to be able to really have fun and try different things out. That's one thing that I really love about this game is you can base everything on weaknesses. You can base everything on the destruction ray, a ray of disaster if you want to. You just have to change this up or focus on your skill hill. There's all kinds of fun things you can do. So reading the skills is a blast in this game. You're going to have the most fun and have the most success whenever you're able to go in and really specialize around something specifically. Like now, even looking back at this, I'm noticing that my damage is, pretty low. And that's because I'm not running a specific passive that allows my skill hill to go up by 20 something percent, which is a massive part of the damage to this build. So definitely seeing the weaker side of it, but it's still fun. And you're going to be able to really, as long as you can stay alive and push damage out and help the team synergize in large scale PvP and knock stuff down, you're going to do great in the game. I just wanted to follow up and say thank you to everybody for watching. I have a lot of content that I'm trying to push out there, but being new to YouTube, A lot of learning to do that as well. Best way to edit videos, how to edit 5 different thoughts. What is too much stuff to try to put in one video? This is the longest video that I've ever made, almost making it up to 45 minutes. But I have a lot of other stuff I want to cover. I want to cover, large scale PvP, what are different roles, how to work with others in those. We still have a lot of other stuff from our getting introduced to the game. I'm going to be putting that out hopefully today or tomorrow. But I just wanted to say thank you again. I've been having an absolute blast. I've gotten a lot of opportunities to run this by people and see how helpful it is. I'm hoping that I'm getting to help out a lot of people on identifying how to be successful in the game. This game is a blast for me. I absolutely love that you don't have to go with cookie cutter builds. You can really deep dive into insane builds. I love it. But if there's any questions, any concerns, anything you want me to go over, the comments are what drive me. So just leave me a comment. Let me know what you want to work on. I will do everything I can. And I will go ahead and add my quest log link onto here. And as it grows, you can check it out. Thanks so much again. And y'all have a great day and see you out there.